Hello, everybody. Andy Jacob here with the DotCom Magazine Entrepreneur Spotlight Series. I have a great show today. I've been waiting for this show for a number of weeks. It's so hard to book Mr. Beni Rachmanov on the show because he's so busy with what he's doing. When I tell you what he's got going on at his company, iShook, it's just going to resonate for you. It's resonated for the entire team at DotCom Magazine. Of course, we're so interested in content and we're so interested in media. And when we found out what Beni's up to and what he's doing with his company, iShook, I said to the team, I don't care what it takes. We need to get Beni on the show because not only does he have a remarkable entrepreneurial journey, but the way in which he looks at content and the way in which he looks at media is really unique and it's really shape-shifting. So Beni, without further ado, welcome to the DotCom Magazine Entrepreneur Spotlight Series today.
Thank you, and I appreciate the welcome and the hospitality as well. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Beni. Well, listen, I couldn't wait to get you on the show. We have so many questions, but before we get into it, for the viewers watching the show, let's give them a little sneak preview. Let's pull the lens back to 30,000 feet, Beni, and tell them what you're doing at iShook.
Well, so iShook's main subject platform is to create a social media platform where it is a refuge for individuals, where they can find solace into the craziness that's going on there in today's current social media spaces. So the platform actually already runs. It's iShook.com. You can sign up and start posting whatever you want, start becoming friends, and that's basically what iShook has created as the main product of our platform.
I love it. Of course, social media has done so well for so many people, but it also has gone sideways and caused a lot of challenges for a lot of people and a lot of company. You're here to sort of solve the problem about content and media and sharing, becoming friends, and like you mentioned, a refuge. So let's talk about that a little bit, the idea behind the refuge and the solace that you mentioned.
Right. So basically today's social media is social and it's social connectivity, but we're forgetting today's social media has become more of a platform of disseminating information. And when we're giving information over, the social media connectivity was not built for snippets of information. So you can't have snippets of information being delivered and saying, wow, now I'm a historian or I'm a scientist now, I'm a doctor now. And that's what's happening in today's social media space. Where iShook comes in is we're creating a base from scratch, and we're very uniquely positioned to do that because we've done it. We've started as an ebook platform, and we kind of grew into a social media platform due to the fact that many authors used to say, "How do I connect with my readers?" So I said, "Okay, let's do that in more of a social media connectivity kind of aspect," and we've done that and we've built that. So we realize that ability of presenting data is so important. So you can present a snippet of a data, but give me the connection of the full piece of information where I can say, okay, I got to learn it. And if you're not learning it, then don't give an opinion, don't give a comment. And that's what really we're trying to create a culture within iShook.
Yeah, I love it so much. You know, Beni, we spoke prior to the show and something that resonated for me and the entire team was, yes, everybody has an opinion. But wouldn't it be great if there's something backing that opinion and some information along with the opinion? And that's one of the things that sort of separates iShook from some of the others that are out there. So let's talk about that. Where did that come from? Where did that idea come from? That it's not just about a snippet. It's more about an opinion connected to some type of information that really makes sort of iShook have an open corridor to run down.
Yeah, so that idea comes really from go to any college, university. You can't write a thesis without bibliographing your information. So why is it that all of a sudden now today, when we're going in and listen, social media has been a product or a platform that has been literally controlling information for the past 5 years now, we could say, and that information has really changed politics, has really changed dynamics in world culture, in the globe itself, and information, and in everything that you can really think about. And really, if when you're becoming a doctor and getting your PhD and you have to bibliography your information, that tells it all. I mean, that tells it that it's a norm that in today's society, that if you want to prove your point, you got to get something backing. Now, it doesn't mean that what you know is not fact and what I know is not fact. We can both be factually correct depending on the perspectives of, let's say, history, which is one my biggest, like. So and that's where iShook really comes from, where we're creating tools and products that can help individuals kind of back up their information or their opinion if they wanted to show it as an opinion or a factual opinion, so to speak. Let's say it that way. And that's what
it's very interesting. It's very interesting. Of course, you're an historian at heart, and that's one of the reasons why you opened up, iShook, and it's starting to take off, and so many people talking about it. I mean, when you think about what's going on social, on the social platforms that people talk about in their everyday vernacular, there's oftentimes this challenge about putting something up that maybe gets taken down, or putting something up that doesn't sort of meet a narrative, or putting something up that doesn't meet what the platforms have deemed to be the appropriate thing to put up. And it becomes quite a challenge for so many people. Is iShook solving that kind of a problem as well?
Yeah. I mean, iShook, first of all, the first thing everyone has to understand in social media, you can't have bullying images of girls or of boys on social media, and that doesn't get taken down. But this nonsensical censorship gets taken down. So in iShook, we want to be unified in what gets taken down and what doesn't get taken down. Meaning, obviously, we're not going to allow hate speech on the platform. Right. We're very big proponent against hate speech. Right. We're not here to give that platform to those individuals. But at the same time, we also want to make it friendly. Like people want to be able to say what you want to say. No problem. But let's do it in a friendly fashion. Like you could say what you want to say in a harsher way, or you could say it in a nicer way. So iShook is going to really propel individuals and help individuals. Okay, we're going to send them emails. Maybe you say it this way. Be like a little PR firm for the individuals who are trying to present their information, like a mini suggestion box, so to speak, from iShook saying, can you please change your format of verbiages? It's all about delivery. It's not necessarily about what you're saying. And that's, I think, where iShook is going to come in, especially since we've created a new blockchain that literally blockchains words in iShook. So every word is blockchain. It's not just the hashtags. So our goal is to develop blockchains on words, and then we can monitor really what words are being said in order to kind of, diffuse the tension in iShook.
Yeah, I love it so much. Building every word on a blockchain is a very unique idea, and it's something that, you're going to be leading the way with doing at iShook, Beni. I love it so much. You're the kind of founder and CEO that wants to bring a lot of light into the world based on your historical perspective of what's happening in the world and what has happened prior. And there's so much to learn from history. It sounds to me like this is a kinder, more informative type of a content media than perhaps has ever been released before to the general public. Am I right?
Yeah, you're 100% right. I mean, I think that's the main thing that we need as a community, as a culture. We need accurate information, because a lot of the information presented in social media literally comes to life and death situations. I mean, people are making their life decisions based on the information provided, and you don't want those life decisions presented by people who are not of that, experience. There's no liability to that. And that's the biggest issue that Congress does have with social media in general. Where's the liability for those mistakes? So at the same time is we should be taking the forefront as tech companies and create our own kind of, situation where we're controlling the liability. We're diffusing the liability. We're not here to target children and creating a social media just for children. That's ridiculous. The children have to grow. They need their childhood. They don't need to be embedded in social media, because we don't need a generation that doesn't have the ability to comprehend information. And that's very important to me.
Yeah, Beni, I love it so much. When you look at sort of the nature of social media, of course, before iShook has come on the scene and sort of started changing the narrative, we think about it, and yeah, there's a lot of bullying on traditional social media. I know that you're, steadfast against that. I know that, you're making a point of saying, hey, bullying is just not acceptable. On iShook, we're not going to allow that type of activity or that type of emotional impact in people's lives. And that resonated for my entire team so much. What is it about that bullying, that sort of gets behind your, collar? Was it something growing up that, you learned about, or something watching history where bullying turned into more bullying that turned into something even worse and more evil? What is this passion you have to make sure that people have a fair shot at promoting their content backed by facts?
Well, obviously, as being an immigrant here in the United States, I was bullied in school because of those who grew up, here. So it's automatic that being an immigrant, you're going to be bullied, right? You're going to be, growing up in the 90s, that's what it was, 80s and 90s in school. That's just what it was at that time. And obviously that made me more closed from being more social, which now I'm obviously more social because I overcame that hurdle. But at the same time, that also prevented me from learning better from others, because that made you stay away from interacting with people. You become afraid of interacting with people. And that's a big minus for me, because with my kids and everyone's kids, I think they want their kids to be able to question, learn, and without asking questions, without making those mistakes, how would anyone actually learn and grow in life? So that's something that really resonated with me in my life. And I always, said, people should have, proper decorum in learning. I mean, we shouldn't be bullied when you're going to learn. That's not the purpose of learning. Learning is a collective. It's not that I'm individual. No one succeeded by himself. Everyone succeeds with someone else helping them.
Yeah, that makes all the sense in the world, of course. Let's talk about the technology platform. You've had some great technologists work on it. When people come on the platform right now, let's talk about sort of the ease of how it looks for them to start engaging. I know you're a big believer, Beni, in making it sort of frictionless for your right. clients and for the people participating. Where did that frictionless sort of attitude come from? What's it take for someone, a new user, to come on iShook and start sharing their content, sharing their media, sharing their ideas?
Well, right now, iShook, you can go to iShook.com. You can sign up. If you want to upload an ebook, it's literally a 1, 2, 3 step. Hopefully within a couple of months, you'll get a lot of tutorials from me how to upload your ebooks. And then we're going to show you how to upload videos and how to become an influencer in the video space. Right now, we have a few projects that are in the works that we want to pull out first in order to really get the full spectrum of every type of content creator, whether you're an author, whether you're a vlogger, whether you're a blogger, whether you're a journalist, whether you're whatever you can do. We want to really get you that catered dashboard. Because when you go to Facebook, it's very unified. Like I'm not a musician, and it's like trying to get me to be, presenting types of things that I don't want to do. I'm a writer, let's say. And there's no one set for all when you're a content creator. It's got to be catered to what type of content you're creating. So we're going to have a lot of that information available. Right now, when you go to iShook.com, again, you can literally use the social media. You can share, you can post, you can become friends. That in itself is unbelievable the way we have it. It's 1, 2 step. What bothers me with Facebook is when I go to Facebook and the platforms like that, they become too complicated. I mean, I'm not here to be complicated. I'm here to have ease of relaxation. I'm not here to be I'm not in a job. I'm not here to learn another program. I need to do it instantly almost. That's what we believe in.
Yeah, I love that. It's a frictionless system that you've been able to build. And for the younger entrepreneurs watching the show, rewind what Beni just said, because it's a great, valuable lesson that when you find a big problem and you have a great solution like Beni's been able to put together with his team at iShook, you want to make sure that it's engaging for your clients and put out a product that's frictionless, put out a product that's easy, because the last thing anybody wants is too many bells and whistles, because it becomes confusing. And when something becomes confusing, you bog off it completely. And that's what Beni has solved here with iShook. Beni, when we think about it, we think about your entrepreneurial journey, and we think about freedom of speech, and we think about how important it is to be able to give different perspectives on different ideas. Something comes to mind, and something came to mind for my team to ask you, Beni. It's when we look at sort of the way in which the world has progressed. Do you feel that social media, as it's currently positioned, the traditional social medias that we're talking about now, are really tying the hands of people, are really not getting the full flavor of all the information out that they possibly could?
Yes, I believe that they're not. Because the bottom line is we're living today in a digital book burning age. That's what we're living in today. We are in a digital book burning, and we know historically what book burnings do, what they represent, and what they are. We cannot get into understanding the truths of that's out. And I say truths in the plural for a reason, because there could be many truths in an event. There can be many facts in an event. It really depends on the perspective, the outlook of what you've witnessed. You could be in position A, I can be in position C, and we can both be saying the truth and the facts. And what's happening is if we don't have that debate, we will never get to the whole truth. We will never get to the full right way. If you don't have debates in science, in medical, if we don't have debates in law, if we don't have debates in any other topic you can think of in history, we'll never hash out the real truth, because only through debate do we reach truths and rights.
Yeah, Beni, I know you have big plans for iShook, of course. Let's talk about it. We have some teenagers, some younger people. They're coming on the platform on iShook. They're starting to share content. They're starting to make some friends. They're starting to share some media. Obviously, there's a lot of data coming back and forth. Every word's being built on the blockchain, which is awesome. But when you think about the person, the individual, the young teenager, what's your goal for them? Is it you want them to be exposed to different viewpoints so that ultimately they can become a great thinker on their own and contribute to society? What's sort of Beni's big social goal for iShook?
All right, so so that's a good question. I mean, the reality is we don't want to impose culture. That's not what we want to do. We want to subtly show other types of walks of life, other types of cultures and creeds. So that in itself is important. And we will be able to you'll be able to basically live in your segment, in your bubble, but still see through your bubble other cultures. And that's what's important at iShook. And you can only do that when you actually give them the access without impositioning those accesses. So I'm not forcing you this information. Don't try to indoctrinate me your political views or ideas of what I should be thinking. Show me that what you're saying is right, and then maybe I'll change by persuasion. And that's what iShook really is about. And that's why I say with snippets, you're just going to get angry. I just tweeted 2 lines. Why are you not changing? I mean, 2 lines is not going to make me change. If that's what your real goal is. So yeah, in iShook, we want to be able to make you comfortable in your own zone, but at the same time, give features where you can actually learn about other cultures and other segments of people who are in iShook.
I love it, Beni. So let's take a look at an issue. Let's say there's an issue that comes up that I want to learn about, and somebody says that they're pro this issue. We won't name an issue. We'll just say they're pro this issue. Right. Is the idea that then I can also look at the people that are con the issue and then balance out the different facts and then research it more and then make my own decision based on what's being presented instead of being force-fed the way to think?
Yeah, so we have a feature that we're launching hopefully within the next quarter, where every statement, we call our posts are called wires, right? We don't call them obviously what everyone else calls them. We call them wires. So every statement that we have will be with a title opinion. So it'll be username opinion. If you want to make your title a fact, we're going to use a little cryptocurrency. You convert it to a fact, and you'll get to the feature where you can actually present why your statement is a fact. So you'll be able to put a link with an encyclopedia. We will not accept news channels, by the way, because news, with all due respect, if you want to present a fact, today's market of news, no offense to them, they're not, up to par in general. But we will accept the fact when you put a snippet with a source of your snippet. So you can post a wire and give us a source. Is it an encyclopedia? Is it a book? Is it a quote from a book? What is it? And then people can debate it. Now people can say, okay, I got you a different quote. This historian says the opposite of what you're saying. And then they could start. Now you're going to have like a peer-to-peer or even person to person debate on the social media. And then we know this is a debate on fact. And then we'll know who wins at the end on the fact. And maybe we reward the person who wins. Or if they both win, we say, you both are good, you both are right. That's the idea of iShook there. That's one of the features that we're going to start creating for that specific.
I love it. I love it. It's so exciting. This is really a mega trend. You're really a zeitgeist thinking forward about what people really want, because a lot of people want to be able to present their facts, want to be able to present their opinions. You call them wires, of course, which I love so much. And then, of course, back the fact up with something that really is a snippet that takes perhaps the viewer to another opportunity to learn more about it so that they can educate themselves. And you and I come from the same sort of idea that the better educated someone is about a situation, the more they're informed with real facts, and also not just getting one side of the coin, but getting both sides of the coin so they can see the pros and the cons and the yings and the yangs, and then they can come up with their own decision. That's a huge market and a huge idea. And I think, Beni, you really have solved that with what you're doing with iShook. So congratulations.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Yeah, let's get into it a little bit more. I know you're a big believer, based on your background, Beni, about building a great team. And I know that iShook is beginning to build this great team. You're surrounding yourself with talented people, of course. How important, when you're in a technology company like you're in, to surround yourself with talented technologists, talented marketing people, and put a team together that is world-class?
It's very important. I think that makes a startup successful or not. If the startup cannot get the right investor, the right co-founder, the right partner, and then get the right team of technological, individuals who know what they're doing, who are experienced with what they're doing, you will have delays and you will have failures. We at iShook, most of our stuff, since we're doing something new, we had a huge learning curve. We lost, we gained, and that learning curve, I can really recommend other entrepreneurs and founders and CEOs to really take in consideration who they hire, and really take in consideration that the people that they hire, that they might say they can deliver it, but maybe they can't. And maybe you need a backup at the same time. Honestly, that's so important in anything that you do. And one thing I would suggest to everybody, I think this is the most important suggestion, make sure that whoever you hire at any country, overseas or domestic, that the copyright laws help you in your company. That's so important, because if you're going to hire someone in a different country, per se, overseas, besides domestically, you want to make sure that their copyright laws are in line with the US copyright laws, because there is no better copyright law system, with all due respect, than the US. We're able to really, and with coding, I don't think you really have anything but the copyrights on your code.
That's great advice, Beni. Of course, for the younger entrepreneurs watching the show in the technology sector, rewind what Beni just said. That's a great piece of advice. That's almost a little mini Harvard MBA Beni just gave you right there. Now, Beni, you are really an entrepreneur that really loves to make things happen. You always say, make things happen. Don't let life get to you. So let's talk about entrepreneurship. For the younger entrepreneurs watching the show, maybe they're in startup mode, maybe they're having a roadblock, maybe they're hitting a pothole in the road. Maybe you could share some of your insight to the younger entrepreneurs watching the show about what it takes to get through those tough times and keep on pushing.
All right, so I'll tell you what one individual who was in business, like the jewelry business, and he told me, and he said, Beni, if you think about the money, you'll never make the money. You'll never make it. So a person has to understand, when he starts entrepreneuring, he has to understand, you got to eat, you got to have a job. If you have a job, if you can survive without a job and you have some funds that you can survive without it, if you don't have self-sacrifice in the idea you believe in, then why should anyone else invest in your idea? And that's what a person really has to understand. If I don't see the self-sacrifice in you, why should I invest in your idea? I shouldn't. And that's what I tell everybody. If show that you have the self-sacrifice in your idea, you're willing to spend, midnight oils every night, as much as you need, in order to make this thing happen, then I will feel, oh, this guy really believes in it. He's going to take it to where he needs to take it. So that's already, that is like the bonus feature that anyone can tell you. I mean, that's so important.
Again, a bonus piece of advice from Beni Rachmanov. I mean, really good stuff. I'm going to bring you back on the show. We really unpacked iShook, but I want to bring you back on the show and talk more about philosophy, because based on your background, your experience, you said how you came to the country, or your family did. You had some bullying along the way, and you were able to build this sort of outer and inner strength that really has served you very well along your entrepreneurial journey, and of course has led you to iShook, which, I'm expecting, I'm going to watch and see how you're going to handle so many wires coming through and so many facts and opinions coming through, and how you're going to handle this blockchain technology based on every single word, which is just awesome. And of course, the blockchain has the ability to do that. This is a very exciting time in the world, and it's a very exciting time for entrepreneurs like you, Beni, who can come up with something that's different. And I'm calling what iShook is doing an open corridor. I'm wishing you nothing but the best. I mean, it's just so exciting to watch what you've been able to accomplish thus far. And I know the things that you have on tap are remarkable as well. So this has been a great interview, Beni. I'm going to bring you back on the show. I know you've only cut out a certain amount of time. You speak about the midnight oil. I mean, you're working day and night and day to get this thing where you want it. And it's just remarkable. So thanks so much for coming on the .com magazine Entrepreneur Spotlight Series, Beni. This has been awesome.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much, Andy. Much respect.